Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, so
you're wearing his jersey.
I'm wearing his jersey
and
proudly.
His ring?
Who Chris Broussard had the foresight to call CMC-esque. But dare I say, he understated it, because if we show you what he's done this year, this isn't CMC-esque. This is Walter Payton-esque.
Yes.
This is Jim Brown-esque, which is why I can now sit here today and say through 12 weeks, through 11 games, Saquon Barkley is the MVP of the league.
Wow.
Which I don't know if Chris Broussard's going to say it or not, but I do think it will make me officially the first things first Saquon guy. I don't know how it happened.
I look salty.
Trust me, Wilds, I'm as shocked as the next guy. But for me to be the Eagles guy and the Saquon guy on this show after I had almost been, a burr in their saddle, so to speak, I didn't see it coming. But the heart wants what the heart wants, Chris Broussard, and this is, now feel free to join me. Feel free to say the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl and Saquon's the MVP.
I don't flip-flop.
Bro, you kind of left the take unguarded.
No.
You took a take for granted, and he stooped in.
He did not.
Exactly right.
The first half
It's
was
exactly
great.
right.
You can have the Eagles. And I actually I picked them to win in the NFC East. You can have the Eagles, though. But I'll let the audience decide.
Okay.
People that watch this show know without the shadow of a doubt who the Saquon Barkley guy is on first thing. Because here's the video. You think this little foolishness gonna get you Saquon? Dusty, the video. I'm looking at, is Saquon Barkley going to have a Christian McCaffrey type impact? Saquon's Christian McCaffrey like impact on the Eagles. I literally saw a morning show today with that as a topic. As if I didn't say that 4 or 5 months ago. I was like, oh man, tomorrow I'm not only going on the show and saying, yeah, I told you he could be Christian McCaffrey. I would say he's been better than Christian McCaffrey. You guys are my witnesses that long before other networks started saying he was going to look like Christian McCaffrey, I said it months ago.
I mean, I said for all of them.
Obviously.
Jersey,
if Saquon's watching, it has to pick Johnny come lately, sashaying up to him in the bar and wants him, or me who's been riding with him from day one and told you with all these weapons with this offensive line, this dude's gonna do something historic. But Nick, look, I'm glad you found somebody. Okay. I'm glad you found somebody, the Eagles.
Yeah.
And while I will not give up Saquon, there's another Eagle I'll give up. And you guys can, have a great time together. Here we go. Dusty, the headline. That's your guy. I called it Friday. Joined at the Nick. Look how excited Sirianni is.
Bro, you're right about this.
This guy used to hate me. Now
and I think this is one of the reasons I find this so exhilarating, as I put it. It's so new and fresh for me to be rooting for a team that's poorly coached and executes game management badly. It's like a whole new experience. May I ask you one question?
Well, you were rooting for Eberflus.
Well, yeah, right. But as soon as I got used to that, I was out there. Is Saquon your MVP right now?
Right now, we will not do an official Bruise ballot, but yes.
Okay.
And here's why. I had Josh Allen last week, number 1, Saquon number 2. Saquon is on pace to break the league record for rushing.
Yep.
2,150 yards, which would be 45 yards more than Eric Dickerson. If you do that, I've got to give him the MVP. Now, Dickerson didn't win it.
No.
Dan Marino won it because he had 5,000 yards, 48 touchdowns in that era, which was ridiculous. And here's the thing, Josh Allen has been phenomenal. We all know that. But his numbers aren't great. Now, his impact is better than his numbers look, but 231 yards passing a game, a 98 passer rating, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's not in the top 5 in any quarterback categories. So if this continues, if they both continue to play this way and have essentially the same record, right now I go with Saquon. I do think, Nick, the only reason not to pick Saquon right now is quarterback bias.
Correct.
That is the only reason. And I do fear he probably has to get at least 2,000 yards to get it.
Well, he's still the odds maker says he's far behind Lamar right now.
So they play
he's fourth,
so Brew, Ravens play tonight, then they play the Eagles next Sunday.
Ravens and the Eagles.
Yeah, would that be a determining factor?
Wild's a big head.
I'm not a huge head-to-head guy.
It'll be a factor. It'll be a factor. It's very all these guys.
But they can stop. We'll see if he can run on the Ravens and they decide not to throw on the porous secondary. We'll see.
Can I add one other thing about the Eagles?
Then we have to go on to your. This is your girlfriend.
I know.
We got to move on to your wife.
Of course, exactly. So fun with the girlfriend. Here is one thing I do think, in all seriousness, the Eagles have going for them that has not been baked into the Vegas odds the way it should be. Their worst case scenario is the 2 seed, while Detroit can easily fall to the 5. So I know that sounds weird because that Philly could be the 2 seed with a worse record than Detroit, and Detroit be the 5.
Right.
Because the division, if you don't win your division, you fall. So Detroit right now is only a game ahead of Minnesota. And if you look at their 2 schedules side by side, it's like, oh, wait. Minnesota, after we thought they were kind of falling apart a bit with the 2-game losing streak, again, I think we have the schedule, but if not, you can take my word for it. Detroit has what I would consider more losable games than Minnesota. So you could see a scenario when Detroit's got Packers, Bills, Bears, Niners, that going into that final week of the year against the Vikings, that's for not just for the division, but for the 1/2 seed, and then the loser falls to the 5. Meanwhile, Philly is going to win that division, and neither the West nor the South are going to catch them. So they're alive for the 1, but they're kind of locked in a floor of the 2 seed because of the situation in the NFC North. I think that really plays in their favor.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. How crazy is it to see Nick Wright start to actually use his mathematical brain and his gambling brain and his actual legitimate football knowledge to actually paint the picture in a way to actually help the Philadelphia Eagles rather than doing the exact opposite that we often know him to do. I'm so on the fence between how much I want to kind of do the whole MVP Saquon Barkley. To be very clear, I think he is the MVP, but I almost I almost don't even want to get into it too much, honestly, because in a lot of ways, I think it takes away. Because then it's like, if Saquon Barkley doesn't get 2,000 yards, that means he hasn't been the MVP. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been impactful. Because what he's doing is so massively impactful that it's just not even close. So it doesn't even matter if he kind of starts to slow down a little bit, or they rest him or this, and he doesn't get the 2,000 plus yards, because they're going to have to really use him as a workhorse to get to break that record and stuff like that. And it's kind of a similar thing that when we talked about before, where Saquon Barkley would have even more touchdowns if it wasn't for Jalen Hurts taking some of those touchdowns and stuff like that. So the stats, using stats as a representative as to why this player is going to get the MVP or not, or why one player is more deserving or not, or why this team is better than this other team. It doesn't matter to me, honestly. And I have some of the stats, right? Even just from last game. I mean, Saquon Barkley has already had career highs. And he's only 11 games into, 11 games that he's played? I mean, it's just insane. He's already had his career high. And what took him to do 16 games with the Giants. Total yards, he was 9th most in the NFL all time with 302. He had more yards than the Rams total. I mean, he's just been playing out of his mind. 255 yards rushing, 9.8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 2 multiple 70-plus yard touchdowns. I mean, it's been unreal. It really, really has. The Eagles have obviously been dominant and ferocious, but what Saquon did was, I think he put this out on social media, wherever it was, and he was like, I think he said, how about that O-line or front line? I forget how he phrased it exactly, but he knows, he understands this is a team sport. He's not all about like, hey, this is just me. This is just me. He understands it's the play calling. It's the play design. It's the other weapons. It's having AJ and Devontae and Dallas. It's having the threat of Jalen Hurts. It's having that ferocious O-line just bullying teams. He knows it's all connected because that's what's so beautiful. If you watch the game, especially from the other night against the Rams, you can absolutely positively see moments where Saquon was special, where he needed to be special, where he's the one that made that play work. And you're like, oh my God, look at him. And then there's other plays where you're like, look at what that O-line is doing. Look at how that play was dialed up at the perfect time. Look at how the threat of AJ or Jalen or whatever opened up. Like it's just all connected. I mean, that's what makes football so beautiful and honestly so complex, but also very simple in a lot of ways as well. It's such a cliche to call it the ultimate team sport, but it is. I mean, it really, really is. And when you have players that actually understand that fully get that, and it's not just me, it's actually we, that is the culture. I mean, honestly, this only makes me angrier that Saquon Barkley wasted years in New York. I mean, look at New York. I mean, look at them. They're a clown show. They're a clown show. They literally have a circus animal as their quarterback. I mean, like, it's like, what are they doing? And you wasted Saquon Barkley's prime years. If he was with Philly from the jump, I mean, like, what are we talking about? Saquon Barkley would be in the running for the greatest running back in the history of the NFL. It's like, it's not even up for debate. Look what he's doing in 1 year with the Eagles. And he's not even in his pure athletic prime as a running back. He's got some wear and tear and miles on his body. Like, that's honestly the tragedy. It is. And it should make you angry, whether you're an Eagles fan or just a fan of football in general, a Saquon Barkley fan, doesn't even matter. You want to be able to see players be where they can succeed. And so it's just, it's so fascinating. And it's been really remarkable to see what Saquon Barkley has been able to do and what happens when you combine greatness with greatness. When you combine greatness with greatness, what do you get? You get legendary. And as we can see, the Saquon Barkley is on pace to smash some records. I mean, it's remarkable. He's already beating Eagles records. He's already beating like single game records. He's doing cartoonish stuff, reverse hurdles, backwards hurdles, whatever the heck they're being called. It's just been wild. I mean, it really is. But it's obviously still early on in the season. A lot of game to play. I think Nick brings up a fascinating point about the whole seeding and locking in. I think the Eagles want that 1 seed, obviously, because I think bringing in the Lions, if you're thinking about like an NFC Championship game type thing, we all know the link is wild. Absolutely insane. One of the loudest, most difficult places to play. One of the best home field advantages. Just ask any ex-player who's played there; they'll tell you of opposing teams. And so it's what the Minnesota Vikings even talked about in the NFC Championship game. How they thought that they were gonna like really be, play big time, and then they got to the stadium and were like, "Oh my God, like what is happening?" Like they literally had the "Oh my God" moment. That's what Philly does. And so that's what Philly could do to a team like the Detroit Lions, a team that likes to play indoors at home. I know they've done well on the road, but, cold weather, like all that stuff matters. And it's what the Philadelphia Eagles obviously are built for. So I think the number 1 seed would go a really long way for them. Don't get me wrong. I think the Eagles can win on the road and do whatever needs to be done. But I still think, obviously, home field advantage is still a legitimate thing. I know it's been minimized over the years in the NFL. It's why even the spread and the points that you get from being a home team favorite has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. But I do think there'll be some exceptions to that, specific matchups as well as specific home fields, whether it be Kansas City, whether it be Philadelphia, even like a team like Seattle for that matter. I think that home field can really, really matter. So yeah, that's what's at stake right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. Pretty exciting times if you're an Eagles fan, especially when you have someone like Nick Wright wearing an Eagles jersey, dropping multiple Eagles banners and not even being sarcastic. Football, man. Football and sports are just wild. It's exciting. Things change so crazily. Nick Wright was going from 1 second saying that the Eagles are literally the worst team in the NFL. That's what he said last year, and said that going into this year that there's no reason for that to change, that they are the worst team. And now he's wearing Saquon Barkley jerseys, right? And they were fighting over who picked Saquon Barkley first. Make no mistake about it. We got the receipts. You can go back in time. You can see the videos that I made. And I said, Saquon Barkley, this is going to be huge. Let's go. And man, were those comments fun to read through. If I had more time and more resources, I'd go back and like do a whole compilation of it. I don't got the time or the energy for that, I'll be honest. But crazy times, man. Crazy times. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Saquon Barkley being the MVP and the Philadelphia Eagles having a ticket to the Super Bowl? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.